You know, guys, I'm going to use a simple analogy to start this video off. If you've ever tried to start a fire, it's actually quite a hard thing to do in most instances. You've got to set one of the sticks alight, one of the small ones, then you've got to, blow it so it gets some air into it, and then you've got to put a bigger stick on until you've got logs on, right? And then the fire can essentially engulf the whole forest after a while. Because that is the effect of a fire. It's hard to start, but when it starts, it's going all right. And this actually ties perfectly into tonight's topic, because I'm going to be speaking about life spirals. And most of you guys will have probably heard of a negative life spiral, where things start going bad and then they just keep going bad. And this is where I think a lot of people not only get stuck, but also find themselves for a large portion, to be honest, probably of their entire life. And I'll use a realistic world example, right? Let's say we've got this guy here. We'll call him John. Right? And John's life it's okay. It's not amazing, it's not terrible. But John's got a house, he's got a car, he's got a couple of friends, he's got a job, he's got a girlfriend, right? Fairly standard guy, fairly well-to-do guy, right, in reality. But then John, for some reason, perhaps for a fault of his or not, right, loses his job. So now John's got no income. And John liked that job, and now he's tied a lot of his self-worth to it. After a while, this starts to impact John's health, John's mental health, John's physical health, right? Because John becomes sort of depressed. He doesn't leave his house as much. He doesn't make an effort to see his friends as much. Ironically, though, the leaving of the house is where the opportunities come. His friends would have motivated him. Leaving the house would have inspired him. But he didn't do that, okay? John didn't leave the house. John became miserable and just sat around for a prolonged period. After a while of not contacting his friends assumed that John just wasn't too cheerful on hanging out anymore. After a while of his misery, John got to a point where, no one really cared. His girlfriend wasn't happy with him because it seemed like he didn't care anymore. And then she left him. So now John's essentially not really got his friends. He's lost his girlfriend. And of course, because he's got no income, he can't pay his rent. After 3 or 4 months, this starts to bite at him itself. So he can't pay for his car. He loses his car. He has to sell it. He can't pay for his house. He has to move back in with his parents. John got on a negative spiral. Perhaps started by faults not of his own, but essentially a spiral which led to him being in a significantly worse position. Now let's take James, okay? James got sick of the same spiral because John and James lost their job at the same time. They actually worked at the same company. But whilst John essentially was, on a spiral of negativity, James said, all right, I've got nothing left to lose. I've lost my job, right? I've got to make this work. I've got to afford my car and my house. I can't lose these things. So instead of sitting in the house and constantly lamenting like John did, James decided to embrace his friends more. James decided that he was going to ask his friends for help, ask his friends for inspiration, which lifted his spirits. James was still a cheerful guy, so his girlfriend was still happy, and he was still making time to see her. Despite not having the money, James had the inspiration, James had the motivation. And James started looking for jobs. Now, when John went to the same job interview, the employer saw the state that he was in. Miserable, depressed, didn't come along very well in conversation. James, on the other hand, still retained his cheer. Actually, he was a little bit more cheerful than normal. Because James knew that he needed this job, and he had a feeling that he was going to land it. Then James gets a job, right, because he's a cheerful guy, he's a well-suited guy, the manager took a shine to him, whatever. So James gets the job. After a while, James is in a positive loop, right? Now James has got the disposable income, again, that John didn't. But James now understands that this is something that he can use so that he never gets in a position with finances like that again. James learns about this. James builds a business on the back of this. James also tries to advance his career and move forwards. And after a while, guys, James is on the path to the life that he actually wants. Now, again, this is a basic fundamental of the two life cycles, because it is actually this simple. It doesn't seem like it is, but it is. Because a lot of people, and maybe a lot of you guys, are in John's situation. Maybe not that bad, but I had to over-exaggerate to make my point. A lot of people let a bad thing happen to them, perhaps even due to no fault of their own, and they let it start to knock them down. It knocks their self-confidence, it knocks their self-belief. Now, we all know about this concept of faking it till you make it, but you know what, guys? There is nothing actually fake, in my opinion, about self-belief. Believing in yourself is not a fake thing to have. It might be fake to a degree to pretend that you are going to land the job, because that's not guaranteed. It might be fake to try some of these things, but in reality, it's not fake to pretend, or even not even to exude a sense of confidence and a sense of ability, and gain the benefits which will inevitably come from this after a while. What am I trying to say in this concept? I'm trying to say nobody on the internet likes to speak about a positive enforcement life cycle, but it is a real thing. You start to win, and winning becomes easy. And this applies to anything. You go to the gym, you don't see any results, well, you feel demotivated. After a few weeks or months, you start to see results, now you're motivated to do even more, right? Because you're getting compliments, you're being told how great it is. You start a business, you make no sales, you feel demotivated. After a while, you start to make some money, you feel like you can just keep going forever because it's starting to work. But no one will ever tell you this. No one really understands this message to the truest of its abilities, right? Bad things will happen along this journey. This is a guarantee. What is not a guarantee, and what's going to absolutely influence your outcomes, is the way that you react to them. So if you're going to sit there and, well, be depressed, if you're going to sit there and let the world happen to you, you're not going to be in a position where good things come to you. But like James, it was his initial happiness, his initial confidence, which landed him the job in the first place. Whilst John had lost the thing which would have got him out of his rut, James kept it. James actually doubled down on the things that were working for him. And it was nothing, think about it really in the story that I've just told you, right? It was nothing but a different mindset which changed James's life. And whilst this seems like an abstract story, and I don't really tell stories on this channel really very often, not abstract ones like this at least, I usually tell my life stories, I think this is actually a very, very good lesson, right? Because a lot of you guys are Johns. And I've been a John myself. When you're a John, things do not improve, because John's situation is just going to keep getting worse. John's situation is just not going to move anywhere. James, on the other hand, James is just going to keep getting better. James now knows what he wants, and all that changed between these two characters is that James said, all right, bad things have happened to me, but it's too late. I'm going to happen to the world. I'm going to happen to the world. I'm going to find a new job. I'm going to get an income. I'm still going to treat my friends and my girlfriend nicely. I'm still going to be inspired and show up every day, even if the results don't look positive. I'm still going to try new things. John did not try this. So in a conclusion to this somewhat weird video, guys, be a James.